Hey guys, what's up? You're watching the EJ Tech Show. It's another day, it's another Samsung phone, and this one is the new Galaxy F62, which in a lot of ways is the spiritual successor to the Galaxy M51. And in fact, there are a lot of things that we liked about the F51 that made their way over here as well. So you're getting stuff like a beautiful AMOLED screen, a quad camera setup, and of course that massive 7000 mAh battery. Now, if all of that wasn't enough, the headlining feature over here is that you get that 7 nanometer Exynos 9825 processor that also powered the Note 10 series back in 2019. Yeah. So essentially now you're getting flagship performance at a starting price of 23,999 rupees.
I know what could go wrong. That sounds like the perfect recipe for success, but this being a Samsung, there's always a little more to it than meets the eye. And with the Exynos 9825, it is a similar experience. Now, yes, when it was launched, the flagship Qualcomm chip was the Snapdragon 855, and on paper, yes, it's supposed to match the 855. But, of course, there are discrepancies when it comes to performance.
Yeah.
Although I will say this chipset performs far better than I thought it would. And this is very, very good for, at least for the price point it's being offered at now.
Right. So obviously Samsung has been pitching this as a very speedy device, speedy performance. How was the performance? We'll talk about the day-to-day stuff in a bit, but gaming, of course, is very important to a lot of users in India. So how was your gaming experience with this? Did the 9825 live up to your expectations?
In some ways, it beat my expectations. For example, there are game modes and game optimizations at hand that you can make. In fact, I did toggle a couple of them in order to make sure that I got the best frame rate, I got the best smoothest graphics, because this doesn't have anything like a high refresh rate screen. It's got a standard 60 Hz, but still, gaming performance is almost faultless on this. Honestly, I think for the day-to-day user, for someone who just wants to get in like a quick gaming session among a whole variety of activities throughout the day, for them it's going to be fine, no problems whatsoever.
Finally, Samsung has given a chip in the mid-range series that now not only competes with the powerful Snapdragon 700 series, but also goes up against the 800 series. So this obviously, like you said, goes up against that 855. Now, of course, we can sit here and talk about benchmark scores and everything like that, but for the day-to-day user who wants that flagship performance at this price point, I don't think they'll be disappointed.
See, this phone has been launched at a time when India is getting phones like the Dimensity 1000 Plus run Realme X7 Pro 5G. So when you take it into context with phones like that, this in some instances is offering you a lot of advantages over that device. For example, the camera is much better. The screen is much better because since it is a Samsung screen, so it's definitely going to look punchier, more vibrant, better color reproduction. Yes, it's not high refresh rate. Yes, it's not sort of 120 Hertz screen, but still, for the average user, this will be a better buy than, let's say, a Realme X7 Pro 5G. So that really puts into context where Samsung is trying to place this, because the other competitor, when you have to compare it with, is the OnePlus Nord. When you look at the OnePlus Nord, that Snapdragon 765G really starts to look sluggish compared to the flagship 9825. Whether it's on paper benchmarks or whether it's in actual practice, this outperforms that. There's no two ways around it. The only way you can really compare it is probably to, let's say, a 2-year-old flagship like something like maybe a Redmi K20 Pro. But even in that instance, this gets Android 11, this gets a far better camera, this gets Samsung's One UI 3.1, not Core anymore, this is full-blown One UI. So you get things like Samsung Pay, NFC, contactless payments, you get edge panels. So
that's really good. And recently, Samsung's just gone crazy when it comes to regular updates, not just this phone that comes with the latest 3.1, but everything else. Like today I did a story on how they've just did it for the Galaxy A51 that they launched last year. And we've done so many stories like this where they're just launching one update after the other. So that criticism that Samsung had for the longest time, that these guys are really slow when it comes to updates, that's no longer the case.
Yeah, just look at this. This is a mid-range device, starts from 24,000 rupees, and it's got the February Android security patch. I mean, that's something OnePlus usually does, and they're doing it. Samsung is absolutely killing it with this. And moving on from that, I will say this, that the performance could slightly be better if you have the 8GB RAM model. Because this is the 6GB RAM, and you do notice at times, you know what, just that little bit of spurt of extra speed would have been nicer, a little bit of more cached memory would have been nicer. But on the whole, multitasking is fine, split screen usage is absolutely fine, no problem with that. Switching between apps is fine. Edge panels, using that is absolutely fine. There's no real problems with the chipset here or performance whatsoever.
Yeah, I'll just say this, that it's important to know that while this is a powerful processor, don't go thinking that this is the most powerful or fastest Exynos processor over here. Like we said that this processor has already been used back in 2019 to power the Note 10 series. Plus Samsung has its own Exynos 990 and also the new 2100, which are far more powerful processors than this. But yes, it is definitely a big step up from the Exynos 9611, which Samsung was using to power their previous mid-range phones. But look, a processor doesn't just define what sort of general performance you get. It's as important to see what sort of power efficiency you're getting, what sort of battery optimization you're getting with that chipset. So this one obviously gets that 7,000 mAh battery to help things out with. But combined with that processor, beg your pardon, combined with that processor, how has your experience been with the battery life?
So I actually thought, like with the M51, when we were using the Snapdragon 730G, in some instances it did feel as though that 7,000 mAh battery was warranted, especially on Samsung's previous M series devices. You used to see 6,000 mAh batteries. They were the first to introduce it at that price. And it sort of felt, you know what, the amount of power this 9611 chip consumes, you need that 6,000 mAh battery. Here, honestly, it's optimizing the battery very well, even with extremely heavy usage, which means every time I pick up this phone, I'm either multitasking with full screen brightness on, I'm either multitasking, I'm either doing split screen multitasking, or I'm doing something like gaming at very high graphic settings, etc. It's giving me nearly 10 plus hours of screen on time.
That's very good.
It's genuinely mind-boggling how good this battery optimization is. And to be fair, I charged this almost 2 days ago. I've been using it like crazy since then. And even now, at the time we're recording, it's at 16%. And if I put it on power saving mode, it'll probably go like at least half a day more.
So if battery is important to you, this one delivers without any
It really does. And thankfully this time, Samsung has given a somewhat faster charger than what they usually do. They've given a 25 watt charger, so it charges it from around under 10% to nearly full in around 90 minutes or so, which is really good.
Isn't bad, considering you have
7,000 mAh. Exactly. You're not going to run out of it at all, and you do know that if you need a quick burst of energy, you just plug it in, and even 50%, that's 50%, half of 7,000 mAh. That's huge, 3,500 mAh.
I mean, it's so
that's
big
how much you get in an iPhone.
It's so big that you can also use this for reverse charging. So
yeah, exactly.
Any other device that supports USB Type-C connection, you can just bung it in there.
Yeah, I know, we make jokes about how this is a power bank. It is genuinely a power bank. You can use it as that.
That's a good thing. I think that's a positive.
And Samsung's actually included a Type-C to Type-C cable in the box to make sure that you can do that if you have another Type-C capable phone.
Now, of course, a processor like the Exynos 9825 will also help with camera performance. So this one gets that 64 megapixel quad camera setup. You've also got a 12 megapixel ultra wide camera and a 5 megapixel depth sensor and a 5 megapixel macro camera over here. Overall performance, I'm guessing, because if this is anything like the M51 performance, and considering that had a lower chipset than this, well, I mean, if you can call the 730G a low chipset, it's not exactly a low chipset, but this is definitely more powerful than that. So I'm guessing performance was pretty good.
Yeah, it's much better than the competitors at this price point. Whether you take the OnePlus Nord or you take the X7 Pro 5G, it is easily better than them when it comes to HDR optimizations, when it comes to taking low light photos, when it comes to taking portrait shots. Almost across the board, this is giving you really good performance. And the best part is, the depth sensor is actually somewhat usable. At 2x, it really is usable. I wish that Samsung had taken a little bit of inspiration from their own flagship S21 series and said, you know what, let's make the telephoto lens a 12 megapixel sensor and make the ultra wide a 5. I wouldn't have minded that at all, because for at least most people, I think a 2x zoom would be better if they had a good 2x zoom on offer. Otherwise, ultra-wide is also a good inclusion to have. That's not bad at all.
And what about low light performance?
It is actually quite good. It is better than the competitors, and there is some amount of grain at times, but it's nothing you can't fix with the AI algorithm that Samsung is using. So once you take the picture, quite a lot of optimization happens. In fact, there have been times when I'm taking daylight pictures or somewhat evening sort of pictures against the light, And what I'm seeing here on screen is completely different from what the phone ultimately optimizes as the picture. And that's something I'll show you on screen as well.
Plus, I also like the fact that you get 4K recording both with the rear camera and the front camera. Other smartphone makers at this price point have done similar things, but it's still good to see this at this price point.
However, it seems to be somewhat limited because it is letting you shoot even HD, full HD, only at 30 FPS currently.
Yeah.
So maybe that's something they can fix with a later over-the-air update. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know why they've done that. It could also be, my guess is, maybe to do with the Exynos 9025, because we do know the Exynos 9025, or at least Exynos chipsets in general, somewhat are more susceptible to heating issues.
Yeah.
Although this has been surprisingly very good, even with sustained heavy usage, it's been mostly okay with the heating. It's not gotten as hot as I thought it would. In fact, I think that's also in part due to the design. This is a plastic back phone.
So it's got that glass-stick effect going on, which is basically a fancy way of saying polycarbonate, but it does remind me of the Galaxy M51.
Yeah.
So it's still got that glossy finish. It will still attract fingerprint smudges.
And it's like a mirror, basically.
Yeah.
You can see yourself in
Yeah,
it.
so a lot of dirt, a lot of smudges. Plus, you don't get a TPU case in the box.
Yeah, so there are scratches.
Yeah, so they're definitely, you're going to pick up scratches. Plus, that 7000 mAh battery is definitely going to add some heft to that, which was also the case for the M51 as well.
But I will say this, it is a good phone to hold in one hand, despite how large it is, despite how heavy it is and thick it is. It doesn't feel very unwieldy in the hand. They've actually managed to balance it out quite well. Even if you put it on a finger, you can balance it quite easily. It's not all that hard to operate. And speaking of operation, you do get a side-mounted fingerprint scanner, which I'm personally not a big fan of. I've said this before about Samsung scanners. I don't like their side-mounted fingerprint scanner because they are very finicky. And as a great example of that,
And I'll tell you something, considering that this has a beautiful AMOLED screen, it would have been great to see in display.
yeah, but then there's nothing to differentiate it with the A series, because now they've even gone and given it NFC, Samsung Pay, everything. So practically the only thing differentiating it from the A series is the fact that it's thicker, the fact that it's got a bigger battery, and the fact that it doesn't have an in-display fingerprint scanner.
And that processor as well.
Yeah, that processor as well. Although the new A series may come with some sort of
other design elements, you've got a headphone jack on this. It supports dual nano SIM support as well. Plus you've got micro SD card expansion,
which is great. I'm very happy to see
as well. So you've got all your essentials. That's pretty much sorted. Display, it's a beautiful display. FHD plus resolution. It's an AMOLED plus display.
S-AMOLED plus. That's what Samsung calls it. That's what they called it on the M51 as well.
Yeah.
But again, no high refresh rate. That is something that is somewhat missed.
That's the missing puzzle for me. I think now if recent reports or anything to go by, if you believe them, then you might be getting a high refresh rate display on the Galaxy A52 whenever that launches in India. But whenever it does launch, it still hasn't had its global launch yet either. So they might get on that. But I think that's the only missing puzzle. Once they get on that bandwagon, because now even the OnePlus Nord and even the Realme X7 series, they're offering you that at similar price points. I think that's the only thing that's missing from here.
See, I will say this. I spoke of the Realme X7 Pro 5G as being a flagship killer, in the sense that if there is a flagship killer in 2021, the X7 Pro 5G is probably it.
Yeah.
This trumps the X7 Pro 5G in a few departments that I think may matter to people a little bit more than a high refresh rate display or than a out-and-out gaming performance-focused chipset. And let's face it, this is an A series phone for 24,000 that is offering features. No, I'm saying there's an A series, as in it is giving you A series level performance in the F series, and I think this is the missing piece of the puzzle that Samsung needed to fix, because they had the M series, then they had the A series, and there was still a huge part of the market they weren't capturing. This, I think, starts to do that.
One thing that we haven't mentioned, because you were talking about the Realme X7 Pro 5G, this isn't a 5G chip. This is only 4G, which now begs to ask the important question, is that a wise move on Samsung's part? Now, a lot of other smartphone makers are only going for 5G handsets because, yes, while 5G hasn't rolled out in India yet, it still means those devices will be future-proof when 5G eventually rolls out. So, considering, let's hypothetically say by some miracle, let's say Airtel or whoever decides to say, you know what, just this year we're going to give you 5G. So whoever buys that is now stuck with a 4G device.
5G, I think, right now is a very good way to sell a smartphone, but it's not really offering the customer anything. And I don't think anyone should ever spend money on a device on the basis of the promise of what it may do in the future. Because you don't know when that technology is coming, you don't know how expensive it's going to be, you don't know to what extent it's going to be rolled out. Like, everyone that's buying the smartphone is not probably going to be living in a high-speed network area. I still think Samsung has made the smart decision by not putting it.
Yeah, okay. I don't fully disagree with that, because if you look at now with the Galaxy S21 series, before that they were launching 4G and 5G variants because they knew that they had to make a compromise somewhere. But now they've only gone for the 5G because they know that that's a product that people will definitely use for a couple of years. So hopefully if 5G does roll out by then, it's all ready to go. Again, with this, if you're on a budget and you're someone who can't upgrade year after year, you're going to be stuck with this for a couple of years as well. And I would have liked to have seen a 5G enabled phone, but it really
they've got to leave something for the A series.
Yeah, okay.
They've got to leave something for that.
All right. Okay, so on a whole, who is this phone for? A, and B, would you wholeheartedly recommend it?
On the whole, this phone is for everyone from, let's say, your grandmother who just wants the phone to watch content on all day long. And it's also for, let's say, your younger brother who's just got into mobile gaming.
Yeah.
And they like playing mobile games. They're not that much of a power user, but they enjoy having a big phone. They enjoy having a nice, flashy, mirror-like effect at the back. Yeah. It's for literally everyone that enjoys a big battery and a big screen. And that's, again, going back to what I said about the A series. The A series tagline was, awesome screen, awesome camera, long-lasting battery life.
Yeah.
This is giving exactly all those things.
Yeah.
And the only chinks in Samsung's M series or M51 armor was no NFC, no Samsung Pay, no Android, no full-blown Android. It was core One UI. Here it's proper One UI 3.1. So Android 11 in 2021 at 24,000 rupees with all these features, I can recommend this to anyone.
Okay, so that's it for this episode of the EJ Tech Show. Let us know what you think about the new Galaxy F62. Are you planning to buy it? Hit us up in those comment sections. We'll catch you in the next one. Thank you so much for watching.